You've got to have that bell sounding at the start of the wrestling podcast, didn't you?
Absolutely.
It's got to be it, mate. It's got to be it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our brand new wrestling podcast, In Your House podcast, which slightly ties in retro In Your House WWF, really, way back then in the day, into something that we're hopefully going to incorporate into the nowadays wrestling. And by the way, what your thoughts are on how far it's came, obviously, and the difference between when I was growing up and when you guys were growing up to what it is now. But listen, things evolve, things change, and that's just it, right? But starting us off, introduce who we have with us. We have Mr. Simmy, or Thomas Simpson. Some people may know if you know him officially. Mate, huge wrestling fan, part of another wrestling podcast as well, mate. And mate, I'm loving it, the fact that you're on this one too.
Cheers, mate. I do appreciate you inviting me. And I like the fact that you mentioned our wrestling podcast there. We're not going back to like mid-90s WWF here, but you didn't mention the other guy. You know, this is like Jericho appearing on the Steve Austin podcast, you know. But, no, man, cheers for inviting me on. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. You know me, I'm a massive wrestling fan. I could talk about it all day, every day, easily. So it's good to have a chance to talk about yourselves, especially a guy who actually does it for a living, you know? Correct.
Before we get to him, you mean to say you didn't bring a belt or something for your other podcast and you're going to bin it live on this one? No?
Do you know, I've been looking for kind of like wrestling memorabilia I've got, and... I can't even find it now. I've got a signed photograph of Nikki Bella that actually Baz, who if anybody's watching might know, got me for a podcast me and CJ Novawetton did that failed quite quickly to like 2 episodes. But Baz got me as a kind of wee gift. It basically, the week before, he said, "Who's your most overrated superstar?" So CJ's like, "It's Undertaker," and I'm like, "Probably Nikki Bella." And she's all right, but she's actually overrated. So the next week, he goes with a signed photograph of that person. I'm like, "Yeah, he's Undertaker." He's a signed picture of Undertaker, like Nikki Bella.
Depending on how you look at it, mate, you might have won in that one. I don't know. But just...
Well, mate, I didn't want to lose my street cred at the time. You know, I was trying to kind of like play up to my mark.
And as Simmy alluded to there, we have an actual wrestler, somebody who does this for a living, who is also a fan, obviously, but gets to do this like we can't do. So, ICW staunch superstar Jason Reed, how we doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm good, lads. I'm buzzing to be a part of this. I love talking wrestling, don't we all, right? It never stops at any point. Doesn't matter, you know, if you're watching from the outside or, you know, you actually take part in it. We all love wrestling and we all love chatting about it. So I am buzzing to be a part of this and I can't wait to get started.
And I thought we'd go colours like, you know, pink, like Macho Man, Randy Savage, and Bret Hart, and, you know, go right retro with this shit. Do you know what I mean? That's
definitely.
For, you know what I mean? That's what we want. To start us off then, obviously we've just had the granddaddy of them all, as the man himself says, in Wrestlemania. Simmy, your thoughts on Wrestlemania overall? Obviously, what's your thoughts, mate, first on it being a 2-night kind of thing? You know, the last couple of years it's been, obviously the pandemic's led to part of that as well, but 2 nights, mate, are you a fan of that, or do you like it over the 1 night?
A couple of years ago, I was all for it. I was like, put it all 2 nights. If you're going to have these many guys and girls on it, or the wrestlers and that, have it all 2 nights, because a 5-hour show with a pre-show is 7 hours. It's a full working day of watching wrestling, which is fine. But the live crowd start to kind of fade by the end. So I was always thinking to myself, put it all 2 days. After 2 years of it, I do prefer 1 day. I just think it means more. And although I think the first night was better, there seemed to be more focus and emphasis on, well, the first night's good, but Sunday's the real WrestleMania. That's what I kind of felt for the promotion and marketing. So I'd quite happily just go back to like a 4-hour WrestleMania on 1 night personally, but it was good on 2 nights, but I think it lost a wee bit of its special spark because of it.
Aye. Jason, what's your thoughts on it, mate?
I don't know, man. I mean, I like the 2 nights, I've got to be honest. I think over the last few years, you know, as we just touched on, the shows have been getting longer. And to be fair, there's more content to put out as part of WrestleMania. There's so many guys from top to bottom of the roster now, which are obviously killing it. which is why these shows are so long. So for me, moving forward, if the shows are going to remain at that level, where we're talking sort of 7-8 hours content altogether, then definitely the 2 nights. But Simmy, I've got to agree. I think for the old school type feel, you can't beat those sort of 4-hour shows on a Sunday night. But we stayed up to watch the Saturday and the Sunday for this one, and yeah, really, really enjoyed it, to be honest. I thought from start to finish the show was just really, really good. Had that feel good factor to it with the first one back with the fans, and I thought, to be honest, they knocked it out of the park.
Well, getting to the fans, right, because see, even at the start when they were all the roster were lined up at the top of the ramp of the entrance, that feeling, even as a viewer watching on telly, that feeling it coming through of a live crowd was just electric. Even though being there, it was still just electric. Simmy, the Thunderdome's been good, right? It's a lot better than in the Performance Centre, but nothing beats that live crowd, that live reaction to things.
Definitely, and I quite like the Thunderdome. I think it's been great, especially with I think it was SummerSlam. I first watched it because I hadn't watched the SmackDown, and it felt like a proper big show.
Yeah.
After that, now you're just kind of getting used to it, and Raw's not looking much different for the Rumble or SmackDown or that, but it's still better than nothing because you can see the fans' reaction. But nothing beats a live crowd for anything, especially in wrestling. You can't beat it. I don't know how else to really kind of say that. The pops you get, when certain things happen, those WrestleMania moments, and that the crowd make it. You turn the sound off, like that match The Rock had with Hogan at WrestleMania, or even Hogan and the Warrior. Watch any of the matches with the sound down, and you're just like, it's not really a great match. Put it with the sound up. Phenomenal.
So that's world. Obviously, Jason, you're in that business, and I've spoke to you about this before. For yourself, as somebody who's obviously in the ring, it must be so weird for you. Then something that obviously you're the crowd reacting to big moments, you're feeding off their energy. You put a lot into what you do. So sometimes you're thinking when you're down and when you're struggling a wee bit, the crowd surely help you, to pull through and come back and keep you going.
Yeah, man, without a doubt. Like the crowd, it's just, you cannot compare a hot crowd that's popping at everything. They're cheering, they're booing, they're there for every moment. And you take that away, and then you put us in this environment when there's no fans. We're taping behind closed doors, and yeah, man, it's just weird. It's really, really weird. So, I can only imagine what the guys and girls were feeling last weekend or the weekend before, when they're waiting. There's this rain delay as well. They're waiting to get out. The crowd are chanting. They're waiting to get back in their seats. I cannot imagine what they must have been feeling. They've went through a year behind closed doors, albeit they had the Thunderdome, they had the virtual crowd, which is cool, and they pipe in the noise, which obviously helps with the dead air sort of that we experience perhaps in our closed door tapings, which is obviously a bonus. But yeah, you just cannot compare a live crowd and that feeling that a crowd gives you. It's just, yeah, it's phenomenal. And I'm so jealous, but I'm so happy for the guys that they got to live that moment a few weekends ago after the full sort of pandemic era in the Performance Centre, I feel like. So it was a cool moment.
Well, you think of Drew, when Drew obviously left the WWE, went back to ICW and started to go and run the kind of independent again. When he walked out of ICW and the hood came down, when the lights went out, you think of the pop there, and then you kind of put that up against last year at WrestleMania when he wins the title, which is ultimately his biggest moment in wrestling, and there's nobody there. It must feel like such a, not a letdown, because obviously that's his huge moment, and he'll have lived in the moment, and they've been great. And when he looked to the camera and said thank you, that'll be remembered in itself, that he carried the company really in that time. But the pop he got in ICW, that's probably up there with him as well. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly, and that's what I mean. Yeah, you just can't beat it. You can't replace it. And man, that moment he had at WrestleMania last year when he won the title, the buzz he would have got off that, because let's not beat around the bush. You still get you still get a buzz, when you're working these shows and there's no crowd. You still get that sort of adrenaline. But I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, it's on the same level as having that live performance, because it's not, and yeah, that'd have been special for him last year. And yeah, that ICW pop when he returned, man, I haven't seen anything or heard anything like that, or anything that really comes close. There's probably a few moments from time to time across the years, but yeah, I think for him that definitely would have been a special moment for sure.
Definitely. Getting obviously in night one, I mean, we're going over the 2 nights. Obviously, your main, as you start with Drew against Bobby Lashley for the title, we were all disappointed, I'd imagine, lads, that Drew didn't manage to walk away with the belt. But still, it was a good match. It was a decent match. What's your thoughts, though, on Lashley as a champion, Simmy? I seen a thing today and I actually voted in the poll. Who excites you more? Who interests you more as a champion? Reigns as the Universal Champion or Bobby Lashley as the WWE Champion? And I had to, although I'm not a huge Roman Reigns fan, I had to say Roman Reigns. His character, everything about him is just much more interesting to watch.
Definitely. I'm quite a big Roman Reigns fan. I have been for years, and I think he's absolutely killing it as his heel role at the head of the table. He's absolutely outstanding. He's done something which is very difficult in this era of wrestling. He's made a heel people are booing for the right reasons. People aren't cheering him because he's a cool heel. They genuinely hate him, but in a good way.
Aye.
And Bobby Lashley, to me, I originally thought, right, he's a transitional champion. They've gave him the belt, so Drew can win it at Mania. It makes sense. I've never been big on Bobby Lashley. His first run, and I know the guy's legit. And I mean, it looks like an absolute beast. It looks like a world champion.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just not buying into the story with it. I'm not overly gutted that he won at Mania though, because we'll get to it later about the main event and stuff and how that was. But starting the show off with a downer, there's something about that I quite liked, and it gives Drew something to chase. Which I like. I like a heel champion. I do like a heel champion. Although Bobby Lashley is not doing much for me. To be fair, I thought the match was cracking, and he has impressed me in his recent matches. I think the guy can go, especially if he's not getting any younger either. But yeah, I don't know. I just think even the WWF Championship is seen as the second world title just now as well, and that's not helping any.
No. Jason, for me, Bobby Lashley, whenever I think of him, I still think back to Donald Trump in the hair versus hair match. And I can't get out of my head no matter what. Right, so I don't know if that kind of shades my opinion a wee bit, but I do like Bobby Lashley, but I don't know. I agreed with Simmy. I thought it was a transitional champion. I thought he would have lost it in Mania because then it gave Drew the pop with the crowd, etc. They never got last year and run right through there. But what was your thought? Obviously, it was a good match, mate. But what was your thoughts on that storyline and that playing out?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I think it was probably so obvious that Drew was probably going to get the win, and that's probably led to the actual decision to go the other way. So that'd be my initial thoughts on that. But I think one thing I want to touch on first of all was just before the guys went out for that first match. Obviously, we had this rain delay about 40 minutes, and for anyone that's not seen the segment, I don't know if anyone has watched it back the next day and they've maybe skipped the rain delay. My advice is go back and watch it, because that rain delay, the content they put out within that delay is absolutely top level in terms of the promos and the getting over the stories in that time is just unbelievable. As a worker and professional, those promos were top level. I think they've obviously just been told, they've been told to perhaps line up in a room, go and shoot a promo, get over your story, whatever you need to do. Just give us 30 minutes or whatever of content, and it was just interview after interview after interview. The Drew and Bobby Lashley one was amazing in itself. Just the passion in that promo, and it's so real and so raw. They've been thrown in this room in front of a camera and this talk for 3 minutes or whatever, and they've just done it, and it's amazing. And every single promo in that little segment delivered. So yeah, just a little sort of to touch on that. Phenomenal. Yeah. So if you've not watched it, the first match really delivered in my opinion. I think it was a great opener. Enjoyed every minute of it. Obviously disappointed that Drew didn't win, because I think we were all kind of thought, he's going to get that moment with the fans. He's going to get that reaction finally that he should have got last year if it hadn't been for the pandemic. But yeah, I think from start to finish, it was good. It's exciting to see what they're going to do next. Because we were all sort of in this little trap where we think we know what's going to happen, we know what road they're going to go down, and then boom, just like that, they reverse it. So yeah, it's exciting. I liked it, and I'm buzzing to see what happens next, to be honest.
Definitely, I liked it. I liked the match. I agree with you, Simmy. Looking at it from a different point of view, it's starting on a negative, with a heel winning. But I agree with you as well that a heel champion, my ultimate favourite wrestler, as you probably know, is Triple H. For me, heel champion throughout the 90s, the late 90s, 2000s, certainly going through that way. I loved the guy because of that. Do you know what I mean? Just because he was what he said he was. He was the cerebral assassin. He was a bad bastard, for want of a better word. And that to me, that's what a champion should be. And I just wonder if that's maybe where I'm finding it hard with Bobby Lashley. You know what I mean? Because I don't truly believe that about him. That doesn't come across to me. And I don't know if that's maybe what it is. I don't know. It's not to do with his wrestling ability or his in-ring ability, rather. It's just that, and I don't know where they go for there. But jump my head a wee bit, you would think the WWE title match would be the main event at WrestleMania for night one. It wasn't.
I mean, that's the thing. They've got so many championships now. They've got 2 world championships, so to speak. They've got 2 women's world championships, and that's where the 2-night thing can come in handy. Yeah. They've not got all these title matches, otherwise it just becomes a night of champions, basically. It's opening. Do you know what was that way? I'm kind of desensitized to it in the sense now, so many championships. The opening with Drew and Lashley I didn't even bat an eyelash. Right. Where I know said the eyelashley there, but yeah, I didn't even bat an eyelash because I'm like, okay, well, that means the women's match probably at the end, and we'll have the Universal title as the main event. And the next night, it just didn't even click really. And it does. I'd rather see a title open it than say run about the middle, or like a co-main event where it's like second to third last one, because you want the first match and the last match to me are the important ones. But as a fan, I'm talking honestly. I'm just talking as a fan here. As a punter, I want to be hooked in for that. You remember how something ends, and as a fan watching it start, you want something to kind of get the blood going. And I think that did.
That's like a book's opening chapter, isn't it? It grabs you right for the off, and that's you. And that's, I suppose, I just thought with being the WWE title that it's quite weird for Vince to put that. It wouldn't be his main event. Him in general, with the way he is.
But that's because, like I alluded to earlier, the WWE title now is seen as a secondary title. The Universal title is what Vince thinks of as the main prize.
Is it then a wee shift, Jason, that you think that, because usually you would always associate the main title as being on Raw? Obviously, it's now on, that's on SmackDown. Is it a sense of the shift? Because SmackDown has always been seen as the B show. However, I've always seen the SmackDown as kind of merits wrestling ability. Do you know what I mean? Actual watching matches and enjoying them. Raw sometimes is about the pomp and ceremony, everything, and promoting storylines and the shock factor. Yeah,
I mean, I think I'm probably at the other end of the scale, whereby I think the both titles are, in my opinion, are probably level. And I think in terms of the structure of the show, the first match is just as important as the main event. So I think it was right to have that match on first. It really set up the show. It set up the full night. The first match is really important because it gets those guys, perhaps the viewers in that haven't yet tuned in, or it sets up the show for if you've got a really, really good first match, and they hit everything. It's 15-20 minutes, and you're like, wow, what a match! How good is the rest of the show going to be? How hyped are you going to be for the rest of the show, and how hyped are you going to be for the main event? You've just seen this first match, which is an absolute belter. How buzzing are you now for the actual main event? And the girls, in my opinion, absolutely deserved to main event that show. I thought their match was fantastic from start to finish. The story that the guys were telling, the athleticism, the moves. Yeah, for me, it was main event worthy. And it was actually for me one of the highlights of the event. So yeah, I'm pleased that that's the route they decided to go down. And as I said, yeah, I think the girls definitely deserved that spot.
Definitely,
Obviously,
they were making. Sorry,
they
were making history as well, and they didn't even overplay it. It was Michael Cole mentioned that during the commentary that it was the first time two black women have headlined Wrestlemania, and obviously you kind of watch it go, well, it always it made sense because there's not definitely been a plethora of women matches headlining WrestleMania, but yeah, I mean that in itself is a WrestleMania moment.
Yeah, it's huge, man. It's huge, and they've both. I can't think of any. I mean, I can think of a few, but in that moment, those two, the hard work that they've put in, that everyone can see, it's just so well deserved, and I'm so pleased for both of them that they got to experience that moment, which I think so many would dream of. So that's cool.
No, to kind of obviously have this podcast dominated by, it seems stupid when it's WrestleMania, doesn't it? But no, you have the whole show dominated by WrestleMania. But just a few wee kind of bullet points for you. Obviously, you had Bad Bunny doing what he did, who's obviously trained hard, worked hard to go in there and not embarrass himself. Don't get me wrong, I watched it with my missus, and my missus quite likes The Miz, and my missus was going, that's not right, that's The Miz's, that's his area, that shouldn't be happening. I says, I know, but you've got to actually credit Bad Bunny for putting in the work and being able to actually look that polished for somebody who doesn't do that for a living. So obviously you've got him. Jason, as a professional, you must have been impressed with him.
So impressed, man. So impressed. There was a few, they sat and they just done so well. They really, really did. Not just Bad Bunny specifically, but John Morrison and The Miz as well as his opponents. Just unbelievable, man. The very first sort of bit of action Bad Bunny got was when he clocked him with a punch right at the beginning, and he caught him flush, and it was that moment you're like, whoa, this guy has actually just caught him with a punch. This is going to happen. This is going to be good. And then it was cool. It was like a fireworks show. You got this first one, the punch. That was quite a cool firework. Then as we get on, there was another one, and it was a little bit bigger. And then you had that big almighty finale firework at the end when he hit the destroyer on the outside of the ring, and the facials, man. The Miz and John Morrison completely, they helped him so much, and it's probably difficult to really put it into perspective. But even just the Miz's reaction when he hits that move is just it just tells the story, and I was so impressed. I think when you have those celebrity spots, it's really easy, or it would be easy for the celebrity to come in, pick up the paycheck, and probably do the bare minimum. It's not their sport. It's not their area of entertainment. They're doing it to probably, obviously draw in viewers and pay-per-view buys and whatever, get their own name out there. But for Bad Bunny to have clearly put in that amount of work is just amazing. And yeah, I think I can probably speak for the majority of wrestlers and say that we definitely respect Bad Bunny for the work that he clearly put in. And I think he done a really, really good job, as did all the guys involved in that match. But yeah, I loved that. Honestly loved it.
Contrast that, Simmy, with Logan Paul the next night. I know it's a different role, but I'm just glad he took a stunner in the end, to be honest.
Aye, pretty much. I mean, I'm not a big kind of like YouTuber, that kind of thing, with the Logan Paul. I only know Logan Paul was that guy who went to the Japanese forest. He had a controversy. He was taking pictures of suicide victims. That's the only thing I really know about the guy. And then they started doing boxing with other YouTubers. The guy just kind of passes by me. I'm not interested in him. But I know he brings eyeballs. I get the guy's like massively famous. I don't know. I mean, like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens didn't need anything extra in their match, but at the same time, it was worth it just for Sami Zayn's wee dance that he did, and it became a meme. And honestly, that guy's just one of the greatest heels gone just now. He's absolutely brilliant. Sami Zayn's a brilliant babyface. He's dead sympathetic. He's a great heel because you just hate him. He's just so annoying. And if Logan was over there to take a stunner, I'm cool with that because he's a guy who enough people hate that you put him in that kind of Owens and that kind of Austin spot. They kind of like don't trust the rattlesnake. I was happy with it. And then he get involved in the match, which I liked. I liked that.
Aye. So obviously, night one, you had AJ Styles and almost winning the tag team titles. That big guy, again, credit to Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods because there's a job there to put a guy over as well and sell what he's doing. But what a absolute enormous giant beast of a man he is. Anyway, Jason, how you could see that coming, right? That's one of the ones that was so obvious in the lead up to it. You could see we hadn't really seen much of him, just stoking about with AJ Styles, who, whether you think AJ Styles is undervalued is probably maybe a different argument. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think AJ Styles is tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. The work that he does is brilliant. But almost, what do you think of the big man?
Man, again, and I've seen so many different opinions, and everyone has opinions, and that's totally cool about WrestleMania as a show. I honestly thought I cannot pinpoint a point where I was like, nah, I wasn't too excited by that. I thought, watching it from the outside as a performer, and I just thought it was really good. And that match, I think they just done that. The way that I think they've done it correctly. They left him on the outside until the very last minute. They think he's not going to get the tag. Then they make the tag, and the New Day are like, oh, we could be in a bit of trouble here. And it's just so easy to follow, It's just such an easy story to digest. And wow, what an absolute specimen of a human being. Just amazing, man. And I think, again, from start to finish, I know I keep going on about this, but I just think it was such a good match, and it really complemented the show overall.
We've mentioned the main event, obviously, and Bianca Belair winning the title, which was a brilliant match. Seeing Sasha Banks is, still on Mark on her side for where she whipped her with the hair was just, you can go along and say, oh, they're trained to take this and, you're trained to take that. I'm sorry, that's fucking hot no matter what. You know what I mean? There's nothing you can do to prepare.
That's a stinger. That is a stinger.
Definitely, mate. Definitely.
This is how I usually judge it, right? So I was watching it with my missus, and we also my missus' sister and her partner were there. We're in this big house. We've survived lockdown. All six of us in this house, including some parents as well. But the way I can tell is they two didn't watch. They don't really watch wrestling, right? They're not fans of wrestling, and they were popping for that stuff big, especially the whip. When you get the reaction, like whoa, and that's how I can judge how a wrestling show is good. If you've got someone that doesn't really follow wrestling and they're like, they're into it, they're following it, they're reacting. I think for me, that's a pretty good sign that this is some good stuff that we're watching. And that was a moment where we had the whip of the hair. Holy moly. That was a bad boy.
That's bad. And I think the other part of night one that probably made people go like that was you think Shane and Braun Strowman and Shane taking the bumps that he does. It's just absolutely frightening every year, man.
I honestly don't... I'm not saying anybody's underplaying that bump, but they look at Shane through the career and they think, oh, he's jumped half high, he's jumped through a table, he's jumped through this. That's probably the worst bump he has taken. Because, Jason, you'll know a lot more than me, but a flat back bump for the top of the cage at his age.
Just to try and put that into perspective, so if you're taking a regular bump from standing on your feet and you bump from there, that hurts. On occasion, you will wind yourself. Now, let's add an extra 15 feet onto that. I just cannot even put it in. My words will not do that justice. I think I agree. Of all the sort of bumps that he's taken, that's probably quite painful. That's there's no gift to that at all. That's going to be a sore one. And fair play to him. What a guy.
He puts his body in the line, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, that's that guy. I mean, he's not a professional wrestler in the sense he's in there every week and stuff. So he wrestles once a year, maybe at most.
Right.
His body can't be used to that. He kept like calloused up in places and stuff. So it's Jason, what's it like when you've not wrestled for a while? Obviously, with the pandemic and stuff, you took that first bump back.
Awful, man. It's hard, and again, it's something that's probably quite hard to try and put into perspective if you haven't really, been in the business as such. But even the most simple things, such as hitting the ropes or taking that bump, your body, it gets easier the more you do it. If you're doing it night after night after night, then it's fine. Your body will become accustomed to it. If you haven't bumped in a year and you're taking a big ass bump like that, man, you are in trouble. I'm telling you, I don't know. I mean, I always say, it's sore when you forget to sell. If there's any wrestlers that watch this makes 100% sense. You have these moments in wrestling where you take one of these big ass bumps and you forget to sell because it's like, you don't need to physically sell because it's just that bad. And I assume that's probably what that moment was like for Shane. But again, fair play to him. He doesn't need to be doing that, but he does, because I think he genuinely loves the business and he loves WWE, and I think that's cool.
He could technically have the suit on, mate, and the headset and the wee mic and direct traffic, But do you know what? Hat off to Shane. And by the way, been like that through his whole career, really. If you know what I mean, in that business, he's not afraid. I mean, you look at him we cut at King of the Ring, getting thrown through the and it wouldn't break. And Vince was actually ready to come out and say, no more, stop that, because you're going to kill him. You know what I mean?
Because you know the story about that, don't you? They reinforced the glass, so when they smashed with the pyro. I was watching, I think it was the Untold episode on the network. It was Angle and Shane talking about it, and that's the first time I'd watched it in years. And I watched it and I'm going, this is actually worse than I remember. Like, Angle keeps picking him up and throwing him, he's sliding down. This is horrific. It's like a fair play to Vince for just not interfering with that, because I mean, we all talk about Vince, like, have a laugh about the legend and stuff. At the end of the day, he's watching his son getting bounced off glass.
I know, it can't be easy. You know what I mean? Can't be easy. Second night, obviously, we'll try and rush through it, but we'll try and get through it a wee bit. We spoke a wee bit about Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Logan Paul, etc. Started with Randy Orton against The Fiend. The Fiend, obviously, returning through. Now, that is the WWE at its best, the way that whole, the Fiend's entrance and Alexa Bliss's entrance. And I mean, I think there's a Twitter video, one of the fans, it was in the stand. And when Alexa comes out, you see the drones in the sky that have wrote Alexa, or let me in, isn't it? Let me in, it says. And that's just, the production of that, Jason's just frightening. The entrance alone.
Oh, man, the production is it's just, you do not compete with that. I'm all for, wrestling across the globe, different companies and different territories and whatnot, but you do not compete with that level of production. The entrance, the CGI entrance in the first instance when he came out, and then he made the change, and then the whole box. Oh man, it was just really, really amazing. And then the sort of spot towards the end where Alexa crops up and then we've got the stuff running down, man. I've seen a lot online, that, and again, people have got their opinions about wrestling. That's cool. That this is bad booking, or this was a waste of a match. I'm not buying that in the slightest. I think this was absolutely amazing in terms of the story and the production. It was just mental. I was watching this entrance and him coming out, and I was like, oh my God. It was one of the first moments where I was able to just sit and watch that as a fan, not as a wrestler. I'm like, this is so, so cool, man. And then we've got the bit where she comes out at the end, and we're like, I cannot believe this is going down, man. Like, after this huge build-up, it was just really, really amazing. Loved it.
What's your thoughts on the whole Fiend thing, Simmy? Because I know some people like it. If you go look online, some people like it. Some people are a huge fan of it. Some people aren't as convinced by it. I quite like it. I quite like the Fiend. I quite like Bray Wyatt as well. So I suppose that maybe sways me that way. But
No, I'm pretty much the same, and I'm a big fan of the Fiend. I love the Firefly Funhouse stuff. I love that kind of character thing. I love the fact there's a long-term story about it there. When Randy Orton set him on fire in December, I think it was, I was like, okay,
where are we going
for this? Because I've seen, like, you see, like, Undertaker put my coffin setting fire and things like that, and there's that wee kind of like illusion type thing, you know, because you don't actually see it. They actually showed you the Fiend burning to death. And I'm like, okay, maybe they went a bit too far in terms of this. What are you going to do? But I liked all the stuff. I liked the Bliss and that, kind of Papa Shango type black oil and stuff. And then when the Fiend came back, I was a wee bit underwhelmed because I thought to myself, I don't know if I like this. The kind of burnt look in that. But I really had to do at that point was detach myself from being too much a smark and just be more like a mark and go, do you know what? I'm a big, massive horror fan, a big, massive wrestling fan. What about this I don't like? But even the stuff about the Fiend I've no liked, I've always wanted to see what happens next. In Wrestlemania, I was looking forward to it. I was actually hoping this would be a cinematic match because I thought the match I done last year with John Cena, the Firefly Funhouse, I thought it was incredible. Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt have got this long history. They could have had so much fun with that. I thought the match between the two of them was good. I don't like the red light being on. I don't like it. I'm a big fan of that. He walked in the CGI fire stuff. I thought it was excellent, his entrance. I was a bit kind of like, okay, what's going on here with the Alexa Bliss thing? And I don't know what it was about it I didn't like until later on when I realised I thought it was just quite abrupt and too short. That was my only thing. I think this is a match that could have done better later on in the show. But I thought the visuals were amazing. And it was Tom Savini that done the special effects for that. The guy that done Night of the Living Dead. And Dawn of the Dead and things like that. He plays Sex Machine from Dusk Till Dawn. And it looked incredible. I mean, I've went back and watched it a few times, seen the close-ups, seen the gifts and things like that. I'm going, that you don't see the wires, you don't see the smoke and mirrors and stuff. It's incredibly done. And whether you like the Fiend or no, like I said, for the most part, I do like him. You do want to see what happens next. And you're right, Jason. Wrestling is about a bunch of different things. You've got the theatrical, you've got your in-ring technical stuff and that, and it's always been like that. For the Undertaker dying and going to heaven, to Bret Hart fighting Owen Hart and like a technical amateur style match in that. If it's not for you, skip it. Watch something else. Just don't watch everything and moan about how rubbish things are because it's no.
See, that's my thing that I hate, Jason, about it as well, is the troll side of things where people just sit and constantly post negative stuff about it. That annoys me. See, if you're not enjoying it, turn it off, you know, because there is people out there who actually are enjoying it.
It's hard, and I think in terms of the WWE product, and this is a difficult thing to do, but it's not viewed as a wrestling show. It's a TV show about wrestling. Whereas some other promotions, and for example, NXT is probably a prime example where that's flipped on its head, whereas it is a wrestling show. And that's probably catered towards these types of fans. And similarly with other promotions as well. But in terms of the WWE product, and when we look at WrestleMania, that is a show, and it's based around wrestling. You know, you have these things, these theatrics and these storylines. And someone who doesn't like wrestling you could put them down, you could have them watch that promo package and have them watch the match, and they would react and respond to the visuals in that first match. If you don't think they would, then I'd think you're lying. You know, it's, I just think you could pop someone in that environment and they'd be like, "Wow, this guy's scary looking." He burned him before. What's going on now? His assistant or whatever, his side part is going on mental and costing the match. What is going on? You would want to watch more. It's almost if you look at that at an individual level, that's almost like a little cliffhanger because you know what's going to happen next. The guys have been built up for so long, and now there's this thing going on. So it's cool.
Add a wee bit on that. I mentioned about red light there. I actually seen Seth Rollins fight the Fiend in a steel cage match at the Hydro a couple years ago, and I'm all a big fan of red light. See in person, you can see what's happening fine, but I think on telly, it's harder to see. And people were talking about that with the Hell in a Cell match they had, and saying they couldn't see a thing. I'm like, I was concerned about that at the Hydro, but maybe it's just the Hydro. I don't know, the lights in there. You can see things a lot easier. So the crowd, in my opinion, you can see better than people at home can. And that's very important for a live reaction type thing. But I'm really I'm going to watch what happens next for the Fiend. It's as simple as that.
When you look at Alexa the next night on Raw, obviously we are her wee doll and just getting a wee bit, you know what I mean? A wee bit spooky. I've only seen half of last night's Raw, so I'm looking forward to watching the rest of the night. But we'll see where that goes. But obviously, Sheamus defeated Riddle for the US title. We had Apollo Crews defeating Big E, which I didn't like because Big E was in his hometown, right? And I thought he deserved that, but I know the story, etc. But
is that not like a total Vinceism though? That if you wrestle in your hometown, you automatically get beat?
You lose, I think so. Which I just felt with the crowd being back, it would have added to the show. But I don't know. Apollo Crews obviously defeated Big E. Rhea Ripley defeating Asuka for the women's Raw championship, and then the main event, which in my opinion was just out of this world. Right, the triple threat match with Daniel Bryan, Edge, and obviously Roman Reigns. Again, out of this world because me as a fan, and this is maybe where you have a disadvantage, Jason, because you're in that business, you know, and Simmy and I could just watch it as a fan and take it for what it was with. But maybe I don't know how easy it is for you to totally shut off for that and dissect things as a performer rather than a fan. But just Daniel Bryan, I like. Edge, I love. You know, and this whole obsession that Edge is getting, this whole manic phase that he's going back into, I really, really like. And then obviously we spoke about Roman Reigns. So that match, Simmy, for me, was out of this world.
Definitely. And like the build up to it and having the triple threat, when that match during that match, you're watching it going, I don't know who's going to win. Are they going to go with Edge and have the kind of realization, the comeback story? Or are you going to go with Daniel Bryan because it's just kind of like his last chance of like getting the belt type thing on that kind of Wrestlemania? Or are they going to keep the Roman? Which I don't think they will. Nah, it's definitely you think about it, and the whole match it keeps you guessing. You know, obviously, like we all thought Drew was going to win. It didn't. All felt fair enough. Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks. You kind of put the money on Bianca at that point, especially after Drew getting beat. Sometimes wrestling can be predictable, and that's good. It's good because you feel rewarded in a sense, but also it's brilliant to be totally second guessing. And that match just had me. I had no idea who was going to win. I had no idea. I just kept flipping between it, and the story they told between it was just absolutely incredible. And every guy looked amazing for their own strengths, and just absolutely brilliant.
Jason, it was almost like the champion and Roman Reigns became a side story in itself because this story that was developing between Daniel Bryan and Edge, that alone could have been a match. Do you know what I mean? The way it was built up and the way it came about, and you were interested to see where that was going, and then you chuck the champion in and put the championship on the line. Absolutely brilliant.
Mate, I thought it was honestly one of the matches of the whole event. It was probably one of my favourites, to be honest. I just thought it was so good. From the very start to the finish, I just thought it was perfect. Roman Reigns for me is doing it big time right now. You know, you've kind of popped him in this position of top guy, top villain, and he's just knocking it out the park. He's just so good, and he's got the credentials to back it up as well. I think there was so many moments in the match, and again, I was able to just sit and watch this match. Not as a performer, but as a fan, and I was getting caught in the moment. And again, for me, that's just another sign that it's just such an amazing match. You know, there was moments where you thought, you know, this was it, and then there was a kick out or whatever, or somebody broke up, and then there was another bit you thought, well, there might be something here, and in the back of your mind, you're thinking, you know, is someone maybe going to come out here? Is Lesnar going to come out and get involved? Because you've got the whole thing with Paul Heyman. And then you're thinking, you know, you hear these stories about Reigns and The Rock. This has been bubbling away, and there's seemingly this is the graphic didn't like the old mention of The Rock there. I think he's done a runner, but you just have all these moving parts where you're like, something could happen here, and you can lose yourself in that moment. And man, that match for me really took it match of the night. I absolutely loved it.
I think you summed it up there as well. You said you can't just lose yourself in it, and
totally, man.
it felt like a Mania main event.
Aye.
It felt special. And, you kind of mentioned the idea of is Lesnar going to come in as a big surprise? There wasn't really any way a big surprises in this Mania in terms of big stars. And obviously there's COVID and things like that, but at the same time there's a lot of focus on the current roster, which you can't really argue about.
Exactly. That's what we've wanted, is it no? But that's what people criticise the WWE for, is that they don't concentrate enough on the roster. And I agree with you, mate. I felt they totally concentrated on that and they promoted it in the right light.
Yeah. And people say things as well as, you should always have them kind of end and leave the fans go happy type thing. But the idea of kind of like Reigns winning and the fans kind of like, I think they were kind of stunned leaving. Mm-hmm. And that happened to me a few years ago. It was, I can't remember who was fighting, but it was ICW. And it was Joe Coffey was fighting for the belt. And he won. And it was his first ICW title. And the place got absolutely mental and everybody's cheering. Then Wolfgang's music kit walks down with the briefcase. Cashes in, wins, places. People just left stunned. People are leaving going, because you're so happy one minute, then the win just take out your sales. That's a good thing as well, because if wrestling, as long as it makes you feel something, you don't need to be going, I'm all happy, this is great, blah, blah. If you're leaving, like, I can't believe I've just seen that. And I think that's what it's like Roman Reigns winning, because you're like, I'm happy if Brian wins, I'm happy if Edge wins. Roman's won. And people want to like, Roman's won again. It was like, he's won. He's a heel. You're supposed to hate that. Come on. And the fact that he could easily have it for another year, let's be honest.
Oh, easy. He could go to next WrestleMania. And really, the way they've done it with him, you wouldn't argue against it. I feel as though the title reigns, and for some reason, and good reasons, they are short. You know what I mean? But in other reasons, I feel as though you should leave it on. You know what I mean? If it's the correct thing to do, it should be left on, and it should be a long title reign, because it gives it substance. It gives it, you're then, this guy is, he is the face of the company without being a face. You know what I mean? He's the man that's carried it as well. Him and Drew, I would say, personally, have really, and even more so, again, going with the three guys in that main event, each of them had their story about being knocked down with the retirement with Daniel Bryan and coming back. Edge having to retire and coming back. Roman Reigns with his own health problems coming back. In the midst of a pandemic, Jason, that was a feel-good story as well within that match.
Yeah, I mean, if you sort of, again, look at it at an individual level and take away the actual result and just, if you think about where those three guys had been, respectively, in the lead up to that and obviously years prior, it's amazing. They were able to all main event a WrestleMania, the first WrestleMania back after a year without fans. They delivered. They knocked it out of the park. The story was there. The performance was there. It's amazing. And do you know what? We spoke about it after WrestleMania. The defense is perfect because it sets up someone else now. And Reigns could hold on to that for another year if he wanted to. And that would set up someone else to try and take it perhaps at WrestleMania next year. And I just think it's so exciting. I think we got that feel-good factor back with the fans being there, and I think the show delivered. And it's exciting just to see where they're going to go next with this. It really is.
Did anybody else wince a wee bit when Edge and Reigns went for that double spear?
Aye.
Right, yeah.
I was like, oh, you bastard.
Aye.
I just thought it was brilliant, man. And obviously, we've been talking for 50 minutes now about WrestleMania, and to be quite honest with you, I didn't plan for that, but that's what it's happened. But moving on to, it's something that you said, Simmy, and I think you're right, mate, is that usually you always look to the Raw after Mania to see, you get surprises, you get something happening that you go, oh, right, here we go. It didn't quite deliver in that way, probably due to the pandemic and COVID, having to watch how many people are there, etc., and working with what they've got that's safe. It's safe to do so. But I still think they managed, and people were again overcritical of Raw and SmackDown in that regard. That there wasn't anything there that made people go, "Oh, right, now it's a new season, it's a fresh start, we're taking on." Especially people saying with Drew fighting Bobby Lashley again at WrestleMania Backlash, which we've always had Backlash really, but now they've added WrestleMania Backlash. It's just a wee bit of a twist on it, I suppose, but it just seems maybe unnecessary. But they've changed up the commentary. Now, a thing that annoys me, and it's probably just the old-fashioned wrestling fan in me who's grew up watching and listening to JR and Jerry the King Lawler and being, that's the voice. They are the voices of my childhood growing up watching wrestling. So the constant changing of announcers, right, through an event even, never mind shows, it kind of bugs me a wee bit. And now they've got 2 new announcers, and obviously Adnan Buck on Raw and Pat McAfee on SmackDown, who doesn't like to sit down. He just stands up and watches the match for a standing position, which is quite mad, but different, unique. What's your thoughts on the Chopman changing all the time, Simmy? Because I don't know if you're a fan of that, mate, yourself. Just maybe it's an old-fashioned person to me. It's just a wee thing I don't like.
No, I agree with you. Obviously, I had Samoa Joe in the commentary, and he was doing good. I think Michael Cole can be good when he's not having to do a script. When we did the NXT UK tournament a few years ago, he seemed just be left his own devices and just be able to call the matches rather than having to try and sell something every 2 minutes. But I'm at that stage, to be honest with you, that I don't even notice the commentaries changing because I think there's something dead generic about a lot of them, especially in the kind of main roster. Obviously, NXT and that, you guys like Nigel McGuinness and that, who are a lot more kind of personality. But I think we kind of Raw, SmackDown, the main events and stuff, honestly, I don't even notice them changing half the time because they're just kind of blend into one. And that's not that goes to your point, I suppose.
Aye. Adnan Buck, Jason, I don't know if you know, but he actually done a wee, I can't mind what website it's with, where he said he hasn't actually met Vince yet either. And he said that when he came to do his interview and his read through and him taping, obviously, commentary, Vince didn't know who he was. And it was Michael Cole that was in charge of everything. And Michael Cole really put him over. He was a good guy. That's who we want. He's somebody who should. So he must have done the same with Pat McAfee as well. But he hasn't actually met Vince. And on Raw, when it was his first night last week, the one of the producers says to him, when the wrestlers come over to the announce table, just lift your cord and step back. So he wasn't told that Drew McIntyre was going through that table last week. And he says in it that he lifted the cord and moved back, but forgot to lift his phone. And his phone was smashed to smithereens because Big Drew got passed through that table. So that was a wee bit of baptism of fire for him.
He'll not forget to move the phone next time, that's for sure. That'll be the first thing that gets moved.
I just thought it was quite funny. He hasn't met the boss yet, but he's been told, just pull up the cord and step back. He says Byron Saxton and that, and Corey Graves obviously pros in that in terms of the announcing side of things. Lifted everything away and we're away, and he's seen his phone there, and it was like the TikTok now, the oh no, both done, phone smashed, gone. His whole life, he said, is on that phone, finished.
Yes.
That'll teach you back up in future.
Correct. Did you ever watch the wrestling, mate?
As well as you're talking about people kind of complaining about Raw and SmackDown and the big surprises and stuff. You usually get the big NXT call up at these events and that. But I mean, NXT it's not only its own brand now; it's its own TV show and its own right to the point that is it USA Network? They're expecting specific ratings, so they're not going to want the top stars getting called away. It's not like it used to be. But it's that way as well. I mean, like, other ratings really that big a deal anymore. You've got YouTube.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, the ratings are doing, but I'll just put up a top 10 Undertaker's funniest moments on the YouTube channel. 10 million likes, 10 million views later.
I know. It's just, it's weird. And also, Jason, a lot of the talent in NXT don't want to move up to the main roster because they don't want to do the travelling, they don't want to do the touring, they don't. Obviously, different than now with the pandemic, but in normal circumstances.
Traveling across the road.
Obviously, there's probably a lot of guys that prefer to be based in wherever it is in Florida that they film NXT now. If you're up on the main roster, Raw, SmackDown, in normal circumstances, you're traveling probably 5-6 days a week, living away from home. Some of these guys have probably got partners that are in NXT as well, perhaps, or partners that are at home nearby. It probably suits them to be at NXT. That could be the reason. I think if you if Raw had a crowd, so if we had fans back full time, and we had fans at the Raw after Mania, you may have seen perhaps something slightly different. Is there a requirement to bring anyone up and make a drastic change just now? Well, the 2 nights previous to that would tell you no. There's no real requirement to do that because we've got the guys and they're capable of doing it. Had there been a crowd, the show may have been different, yes, perhaps.
Good point.
Good point, mate. I definitely. Right, we thought that obviously this podcast slightly different. We would try and get some interviews with certain maybe wrestlers, people involved within WWE, maybe even branch to AEW, maybe even branch to legends of the past, and see where we go with that. So hopefully we'll get some of that in the no too distant future. I also thought of some features that we could run on the podcast. And one we came up with was the, as I said to you guys, was the King of the Ring type effect, which we don't really have anymore. And that we could pick a wrestler, and if MD who's watching this and listening to this wants to also throw a name into the ring, so to speak, then obviously feel free to do so via the social media. But we felt as though we could maybe put wrestlers forward, have maybe like 4 quarterfinals, and then crown a King of the Ring on this podcast. So I think we should throw a wrestler in on this show. So 1 each. So that would give us 3, right? Now, it can be anybody. It can be somebody who's a hero for the past, somebody who you like the new, somebody that was maybe you fancy putting people together as a dream match and you want to put one in the new. So, Simmy, who have you had a wee think, mate, who you would like to put forward for your choice in this episode?
I have, and it seems like an obvious one, but I can't see past him. I've been sitting thinking, God, I'd like to pick somebody for the currently, somebody a bit unknown, maybe an NXT guy or that, somebody's kind of killing it in NXT UK. I'm going Bret Hart.
It's obvious why, no even any need to have reasons for that, you know what I mean? The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Jason, yourself?
Man, this is a struggle. I had a good 3 or 4 names and I've been thinking all day, you know, I need to narrow it down. And I can't even put the one name in the hat. It's going to be difficult for me. But because of how excited I was about WrestleMania, I'm going to pick someone that was on the WrestleMania card this weekend. I'm going to pick Randy Orton to go in.
Lovely.
Because he has been at the top of his game since he walked into WWE however many years ago, probably about 20 years ago, right? And he's just great. He is one of the best, if not the best, in the world right now, in my opinion. I think he, in terms of a performer, the distance that he goes to tell a story, from the mannerisms to the reactions, it's just amazing. He is absolutely world class, and for that reason, my pick is Mr. Randy Orton.
And you actually believe he is a viper, don't you? See his movements, his mannerisms, the way he does it. It's like that. You know what I mean? It's weird that you actually, you know, somebody. I don't think there is anybody better than him. You're right, especially at their character and what they do. And just a wee side thing, we whole segment with Mark Henry. What was it? Last month, 2 months ago? Can't mind. The whole thing with Mark Henry. Whenever they had the Legends night, and Mark Henry's there and he's wheeling in his wee scooter thing. Do you know what I mean? And how Randy Orton was for him is legendary. I loved every bit of that.
Did you see his cameos?
I've seen some, mate. No,
absolutely outstanding.
I just hope the guy is asked to be abused. I mean, I assume that was the drill, you know. But wow.
I love Seth Rollins. You watch the Seth Rollins one. I don't know what he's doing. I think he's trying too hard. Like you've watched the Kevin Owens one's all right. Daniel Bryan's just rattling through them. Shane McMahon one, I'm like, mate, you pay £500 for that. The Randy Orton one, you're like, money well spent.
If anyone hasn't seen that's watching, please go and watch it, brother. That is the drizzling shits.
Absolutely brilliant.
Oh man.
How you go, mate?
Regarding Bret Hart's biography, personally signed by the man.
There we go now.
Love
There we
it.
go.
So
I'm
you've put your mate forward. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much. He was going to be upset, and I got a good Speaking of cameos, I got a birthday present cameo from Bret Hart last year, and it was brilliant. His cameo, it was excellent. It made me believe he was talking to me just personally on the phone. I was like greeting. He's quite a promo on me, and he's just like, that's Bret Hart, he's my childhood, But I met him in 2009 at Waterstones. It was the day Brock Lesnar fought Frank Mir for the second time in the UFC. So I stayed up all night watching that and went to Waterstones. I was some absolute nick. And my girlfriend at the time took a picture of me shaking Bret Hart's hand, and it was all bloody.
Oh, that's horrible, isn't it? That's brutal.
Simmy, you said girlfriend at the time. I assume that was the reason for dismissal.
Valid grounds, mate.
I think I didn't last much longer than that. That's a true story.
I thought for my pick, I thought, right, I've already said I'm a Triple H fan, so I thought to myself, that's too obvious, isn't it? So I skip and ruin everybody. Who do you put in? Who did you go for? Stone Cold? Did we go for The Rock? Did we go for even Drew nowadays? Did we go? I just don't know. And then I just went, that has to be the cerebral assassin, the game himself. It has to be the man. I just love him to bits a day. And I was dead disappointed when he shaved his hair off. And then I just went, no, you're even more a bad bastard. Now look at you. Aye, no, you're the man. And true story for all a bad bastard, and that's why I like him, etc. Obviously for his achievements and his in-ring work as well. But the reason why I got to like him was because I watched him against Cactus Jack, and I seen Cactus Jack put him into the thumbtacks, and I thought, that was just fucking shite. There was no need for that. You shouldn't do that to somebody. And I thought, I feel sorry for you. And then all of a sudden, the affiliation with that man was there, and he's been my favourite ever since, and I will be till the day I die. It's a great wrestler.
He's one of the kind of guys. Yeah. Sorry, Jason.
No, on you go, man. I was just going to back up everything you just said. I absolutely love Triple H, man. Got his one of his books. I don't know if you've read it. It's more probably to do with the fitness and nutrition side of things rather than his actual career. But it kind of mixes them in, it intertwines both of them. And it's just amazing, man. I love him. If you're stuck for a show to watch, you can always search for Triple H's old matches, and man, they're unbelievable. Simmy, over to you, man. Apologies.
No, not at all, man. I was just going to say, like, regarding Triple H, he's kind of one of the guys. I was watching wrestling in '96 when he first debuted, and I'm still watching it. He's kind of one of the guys I've seen over the better part of 30 years. Like, you follow your favourite band in a way through the wee clubs or a way up. I've kind of had that kind of thing with Triple H. Even with Randy Orton, I wasn't watching when he first came into it. I've only really kind of experienced Randy Orton properly for the last maybe like 5 or 6 years. I agree with you, the guy's absolutely incredible. It just makes everything look so easy what he does. But Triple H, I mean, look at my different kind of character changes he went through and stuff. And when he first done the DX thing, and you think, this isn't going to work. He doesn't really suit that. Proved everybody rang. Then he's a kind of the badass cerebral assassin type guy. And I think as well, people like to pick on him because the power relationship with him and Stephanie and stuff. And I've done that as well, to be fair. You know what I mean? I think a lot of us have at one point or another. But as a guy that I think in more recent years as well has shown so selflessness in how he's put people over, and the stuff he's done with NXT has been absolutely incredible. Once a guy that even got the Warrior at the Hall of Fame, he managed to kind of like broker that friendship between Vince and Warrior, to kind of end the bitterness in that again. The guy just seems like a really nice guy. Side the ring,
he's amazing, isn't he? He is. Just in terms of someone to look up to, he is the man. He's done it and like you said, Sam, he's gone through so many transitions. He's just nailed it every single time, man. He's just the advice that you can get from someone like that is just it'd be absolutely life changing. Sam, have you ever seen the match he had back in? It must have been '97 or '98, the Pigpen match.
Yes, in your house.
Man, so in his fitness and nutrition book, he basically touched on that match, and he says loads of the other guys were offered that match or they had it, and they weren't really keen on it because they were getting put in like, pig shit or whatever. And he was like, you know what? Nah, I'm going to do it. And he rolls about in it and he throws it up in the air and he's got these big dramatic facials and he's rolling and backflipping in it. And it's amazing. And I think one of the quotes in the book is, I knew one day that rolling in pig shit would get me to the top. And yeah, it certainly did.
It's been a while since I've seen that match, to be fair, but if I do recall, did Hero get some pretty bad back cuts?
Right, from the, yeah, exactly, because there's like a sort of fence thing that went round it, I think. And yeah, he got he got a bit of damage, yeah.
Again, though, the business it's always best for business stuff, right? But the business has to be the winner in the end of the day. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter about you personally. You have to promote the business in the best light. And I just believe Triple H is up there with the very best in doing that. And that proves it that, there's nothing that he wouldn't ask him to do the new in his position that he hasn't done before himself, or worse,
exactly
himself. Yeah. And that's where Shane gets that respect as well, because these guys have done that. They've done the shit. You know what I mean? So if they're asking you to do something, they've done that in the past, so you're more inclined to be open to that.
Aye. And the thing with Triple H, that's a guy that was poised for stardom at King of the Ring 96. After the curtain call incident everybody knows about, he can they can't punish Hall and Nash, did away. He can't punish Shawn, he's a champion. I will. Hunter, you're going to get dead for this. That's a guy that was tipped to be the next big thing, battered back to the bottom of the card, and then clawed his way back up just on pure talent, determination, hard work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know if I put the guy over here, kind of over the top, but yeah, I think people could talk about the Stephanie thing all they want and that, but let's be honest, it's a guy that deserves that top spot.
Correct.
A lot of people still don't think him as being the guy, like a John Cena, The Rock type thing. And maybe that's harsh, maybe it's fair. It's not for me to say, but I don't think people are really going to appreciate how good he is until he's officially retired in ring.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've seen Jason his press conference before Mania, and people were saying about how, I can't remember if it was AJ Styles wanted to wrestle him, or that that should happen, and Triple H says that in his role at the minute he just can't commit to the fitness behind it, the workout behind it, the actual behind the scenes stuff that maybe we don't see and don't appreciate as much, and guys like yourself will obviously, to be in the best possible shape to do that justice. So he's kind of never committed to that, which I would love to see Triple H wrestle again. But only if it's correct for him, because he doesn't need to wrestle again. So
Triple H does AJ Styles, so that's.
I think he will. I think we can see him coming back. I don't think, for everything that he's done and all the hard work that he's put into his career, he certainly deserves a final sort of retirement tour, if you like. So yeah, I've got every faith that he'll be back in the ring soon, man. So don't worry.
Who do you see retiring them? Do you think he'll have somebody for like NXT or that? Or do you think he'll go for an AJ Styles match, a dream match, or something like Randy Orton, which would make sense?
Evolution, mate. Evolution, isn't it?
It's hard to tell, because it really is so hard, because there could be all of that. I think that's what's cool as well. It's cool to try and maybe guess who's going to be in there, but truth be told, we don't know, and it's just as exciting waiting to find out.
I want to see like a Firefly Funhouse type thing, like against the Fiend, and the Fiend comes out dressed like the Hunter Hearst Helmsley, robe and stuff like that.
Yes,
that'd be good, buddy. That would be good. The thing is, as well, I suppose it goes back to like the Undertaker with the streak type thing, and the Undertaker saying, "I didn't have any problem the streak being ended," but who would end it? It would have to be the right person, and whether people think Brock was the right person or no, I would like to see Triple H, maybe if he was going to retire completely, if he in-ring, to maybe be somebody, to put somebody over maybe for NXT, which he's worked so hard on to create. And I think that'd be fitting, not that they need to be put over, because let's face it, they're doing a good job of that themselves, and a lot of people they're worried about when Triple H and Stephanie, whether they take over, which obviously Shane will be involved in that as well, but when they take over officially, properly, completely for Vince, rather than Vince being the workaholic that he is. But I don't know, I just think you need to look at NXT and think WWE's in safe hands, going forward with people like Triple H, Stephanie, Shawn's in that as well, Shawn Michaels is in that as well, and Shane O'Mac himself, it's just, That's just my opinion on it, though. Of course, nobody might agree with that. People might think it'll be a shambles when Vince goes away, and that might be the case. I don't know.
Long time before that happens, man. A long time. Vince is going absolutely nowhere anytime
He's going in a
soon.
box, mate. Let's face it. He's not going out of his own accord. He's going in a box.
Is Vince's mum still alive? I think.
I'm not sure, mate.
She either died recently or she's still alive.
She's still alive. It's mad, isn't it? That's mad. The genes are good.
They are.
Jason, when are we going to see you in the WWE, mate?
Oh man, that's the aim, that's the plan. We just got to keep doing what we're doing just now. We've got to work harder than everyone else. Get the name out there, surround yourself with the right people, and fingers crossed in the next couple of years we'll see a little appearance. So that's the aim anyway.
Yeah, so you're not a million miles away from it. You can watch it on the network,
Correct.
And that's cool, man.
Closer than that, mate.
And that's cool, but that's just the start. We want to be on WWE brand. I won't stop until I get to WWE, no matter how long it takes me. But I've got a feeling if we just keep going in the right direction, we're not too far away. So fingers crossed.
It must be exciting as well for you as a wrestler in this day and age, and seeing an actual path to it. Whereas like back in the day, it's like I remember when I was younger, I was like, oh, I'm a wrestler. Like they needed training wrestlers. So it's Ken.
Right.
That's a Drew went Hammerlock. But I mean, like you've got NXT UK, you've got like a good indie scene. The fact you're on the network already and that, and it's like,
and that's what's cool because we have these guys that we work with. The guys that have been in ICW before, who are signed with WWE UK now, and they're training with Shawn Michaels, and they're working with all these coaches, and it's amazing, and it's not that far away, and that's such a it is mental. It really is mental, but it gives you a proper drive,
Of course, as well with Triple H, I think that's what he's good at. It's looking at the indie scene and looking at not being afraid to bring these people in to NXT and NXT UK, as you're saying as well, and actually testing that and seeing where that goes and developing people. Sean working with them, developing people. That's maybe where when the time comes where Vince isn't there, it's maybe that'll expand even more. Do you know what I mean? Which can only benefit guys like yourself, Jason, because I'm sure, obviously, not just because we know you but you would. It's not like you wouldn't deserve to be in that arena either. Do you know what I mean? You watch your stuff in the ring, and you think you could see that. You could see that going forward. And you only need to look at Drew. You don't need to look far for somebody, obviously, as an avenue to get there.
That's it, and it's all about hard work, isn't it? I mean, we could sit and say, we deserve this, we deserve that, because I get up, early and work out every morning. Who cares, man? It's
got to be lucky as well.
Right, you just got to keep doing your thing, keep your head down, and it'll come one day. So just keep going, and we'll see you there.
Well, I don't know if I've got much left to say, so I hope that people have enjoyed the newest styling, profiling, limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing, son of a gun of a podcast, the cerebral assassin of podcasts, which is launching. And as I say, how frequent they'll be, we're thinking maybe monthly, because Jason's a busy man, Simmy's a busy man, Baz, who you mentioned before, who will be on this as well, also a busy man. I just kind of float about and I'm there when we need this, but we can make it work. We also have plans, as I spoke to you about, Jason, which I don't know if I actually mentioned to Simmy about the whole studio format, about getting together in an actual place to produce the episodes, which might be quite unique and fun as well, rather than this, although this is fun, but it might be quite unique and something different. So we hope that everybody has enjoyed it. Thanks to Simmy for joining us, and obviously Jason as well for taking time out of his busy schedule and joining as well, lads. I hope you've enjoyed the first episode, lads.
Yeah, it's fun.
Loved it. Yeah, a lot of fun. Looking forward to getting back next month, hopefully with a cheeky little guest,
Oh, hopefully, we never know. That'd be the dream. Thanks as well to anybody who's listened, watched. We watched on YouTube, listened on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at In Your House Pod. I've put on the screen here, so the YouTube channel In Your House Podcast, and obviously, as I've said, Twitter at In Your House Pod. Follow us and you'll be kept up to date with everything that's going on. We're excited about it. We hope you're excited about it, and we'll see you next time. Yes, it's been fun. Thanks. Cheers. Bye.